Adam Scott, he's got one of the best swings in the game of golf, if not ever. It's such a stylish action. He's got beautiful tempo, beautiful rhythm, and I could watch this swing all day. So let's have a look at Adam's swing from 2024, see what he's doing, see what makes it such a great action. So the fundamental of Adam is how much he works on this setup. You'll see from down the line and face on is just look how beautiful that setup position is. Adam really works on this, and we'll look at some of the keys that Adam works on. So we'll look from face on first. You'll see Adam has, I'd say, probably a slightly strong grip in that left hand. Nothing overly strong though. It's a lot weaker than when he first started on tour, when he was more wrapped over with that left hand. But I just love that setup position. He's got a nice bit of tilt in his spine, and he's got a subtle amount of foot flare, which enable him to work really nicely around those hips. Just a lovely position from face on. You'll notice this is very subtle, but I actually think that that's a little bit too far back in his stance for Adam. It might be the camera angle, but I would like to see that ball position a little more up, which will help him hit up on the ball and be a little bit more efficient with the driver. Again, he might just be trying to hit a certain shot here, but it could be it has sneaked a little far back. So let's have a look from down the line. Adam works a lot on this position of getting a nice neutral spine. Adam can be a little bit too upright and bolt upright at address, and also he can be a little bit too flat in his pelvis tilt. So he's done a great job there of his posture. He's got that nice tilt in his pelvis, nice knee bend, nice neutral spine. He works on this and his alignment religiously, more than anything else in his swing from what I've heard, that and tempo. The other thing we'll notice with Adam is if we zoom in and look at where the ball is situated on that driver head, you'll notice it is towards the heel. That's primarily because of how he works in takeaway, which we'll talk a little bit about now, is we'll watch this head movement. If you look, watch how that head starts to move back off this line. Can you see that there? It's a subtle amount, but that movement with his body back away from the ball just mean that he addresses it in the heel, because it's almost like a little bit of a matchup. Because he's moving away, then effectively that sweet spot is now further away from him. So that's why he does address it a little bit in the heel, just to match that body move up. If he didn't, he'd probably just miss the center of the club face a lot more. So he does that as a little matchup. So we'll talk a little bit more about those positions now. So you'll see from Adam, he's very Tiger in 2000. I will draw a little alleyway with the hands and watch how those hands work more out and in front of him. You can see how they're working more towards this line here. You see that? Rather than in a straight line back. Now that creates a lot of width and just enable him to keep his hands more in front of him, both in the backswing and in the downswing. So if we look from face on, we'll see a subtle move in those hips towards his right leg. Can you see that subtle bump? A little bump. You'll see how the head moves subtly to the right foot. That's just really loading him in the backswing. And you'll see, if I get rid of those lines, don't want to make it too messy, is look at that position there. I just love that nice wide action, subtle amount of right arm bend. That club head is in front of his hands. We've got that shaft pointing almost towards his chest, and that club head is nicely matching the spine angle. And I love that little bump to the right hand side. We can see here again that just loads him into that trail leg. You'll notice as well, if I'm taking a little bit further back, you'll start to see those wrists start to set. You can really see it from face on, how he started to set those wrists, and that elbow is starting to bend a little bit more. He's got one of the best right arm movements in the game, Adam. So if we take him a couple more frames back, you'll see how that right elbow starts to bend. I'll get rid of that line. You'll see how he starts to set those wrists. That if we were to put a T-peg in the butt of the club there, you can see how it points down. A lot of guys don't have a lot of wrist set and the club's more at this angle. Just a lovely position with a little bit of right arm bend. You'll also see he's had that little bump initially, and then what happens after he bumps, he doesn't start going further. What happens is he bumps and then that right pocket starts to work back. Can you see that? So he bumps and then the right pocket starts to rotate back. Very, very powerful move. You'll see this on the down the line. Watch how he's had that bump down and then that right pocket starts to move back. Just a lovely, lovely position there. Those hands nicely in the middle of his chest, that butt of the club pretty much pointing at the ball. Just textbook. That right arm position is absolutely phenomenal. And then if we take him a few more frames back, you'll see he's almost just keeping that wrist set and just rotating the body. Look at that in the top of the backswing. Not a huge amount of hip turn, loads of ribcage rotation or thorax rotation. And look how high those hands are. Love that position. We'll take him back here. And look at that. Just a beautiful right arm position here. You can see how it's almost at a right angle. That left arm is just slightly higher than his shoulder plane, and then that lead wrist or the left wrist is nicely flat, matching everything. You can just about, if I zoom in, see that club face a little bit stronger than his arm line, so it's a little bit strong, but Adam hits a draw, so it's a great way of helping him hit that draw. He was, when he first came out in his career, a little bit more shut with that club face, but just a beautiful, beautiful position from Adam there. So let's zoom out and let's look at this transition move. So Adam doesn't rotate really early like a lot of guys like Rory. What Adam does, he's got more of a bump down and towards the left. So watch how these hips will start to move down, down and towards the left. You see that? Down and towards the left there. So he's not overly rotating, it's more of a bump, and it's a great way to shallow the club out. So we'll look from down the line, you can see that just subtle bump there. There we go. Just a bump. And you'll see his chest is still pointing away from the target. His belt buckle's still closed. It's just a great way, like I said, of shallowing that club head, where a lot of guys are more concentrated on really rotating those hips initially. Adam just has that subtle little slide to the left and then drops his hands, which we'll talk a little bit about now. So as he drops those hips down and towards the left, you'll see how those hands just nicely drop into that position. He's maintaining the lag